All right, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
It's very amazing. First of all, I just want to say, anybody out there right now, you're sitting at home, you don't want to come on. We got Chinese food. We got plenty of jelly donuts, coffee, and Chinese food at 11:15. Be here, okay? Get out of your pajamas and come, okay? Or come in your pajamas. All right, let's pass these out. I will keep one. These are 2 pages, okay? Phil, I'm going to put you in responsible to hand these out, okay? I figure, there's so many angles to approach
Can I
Hanukkah.
say hello to everybody out there?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
How many does everyone get? Oh, 2 sheets per person.
Okay, but you know something? The best way to approach Hanukkah is go from the very beginning. Okay? So when we want to go from the very beginning of Hanukkah, we're going to actually go to where it's sourced in the earliest sources that we have, which is what you have on the sheets that I'm handing out to you. Right, in the sheets that I'm handing out to you, it talks about the very first 4 verses of Genesis. Really cool. Okay? Would you believe it? Actually, it doesn't. Yes, it does. This is so awesome. What we're about to go on, what we're about to venture on today. Okay? Does everybody have a sheet? Is everybody sitting? Today we meditate. We're going. Yes, we are going to meditate. I'm going to bring you on a meditation. What do you want, a sheet? He's got it. I only made 15, so you might have to share. Because I don't know who's coming.
Sharing is to care.
All right, so it says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Va'aretz haisa tohu v'vohu v'choshik al pnei tehom v'ruach Elokim merachefes al pnei hamayim. And it says, now the earth was unformed and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. You notice how I underlined those 4 things, right? And then it says, the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. So there's a great midrash that it brings down, that when it says in the very second verse here, the earth will unformed, void, darkness, and deep, represents the 4 different exiles that the Jewish people will be under, the 4 different kingdoms that will rule over the Jewish people. That's right. Okay? And it's right kind of like here, hinted out, here on the same page, just below. When it says unformed, that refers to Babylon, the Babylonian exile. Void refers to Persia and the Medes. And darkness refers to Greece. And the face of the deep refers to Rome, the wicked empire. Actually, I say Rome, but it doesn't really say it explicitly. Okay? The intimation was, the language of the Midrash was, Al Pnei Tehom Ze Malchut HaRasha, the evil wicked kingdom, She'en La Cheker, which has no, literally means investigation, or no end, or seemingly no end. No Ein Cheker, you can't even investigate it. Kamo Tehom, just like a deep, who has the deep, you just look down, and there's no end to the pit. Okay? So they most of the commentators will say that's the Roman Empire, or the Christians. B'ezrat Hashem, on the merit of our learning Torah today, right? We'll elevate all of the holy sparks, right? And should be a refuah shlema for Naomi Bat Sarah, an elevation for my son Elisha Meir ben Yaakov. Okay. So in any case, we have here a hint to the 4 kingdoms. Okay. Now we want to focus on Greece, because Greece is called Choshech. It's called darkness. Okay. And what was the exact point of what Greece was doing? Okay? Because the language of the Gemara and the Talmud and Shabbos brought out the idea of we wanted to know, what is the real miracle of Hanukkah? They asked, Hanukkah Maihi, what is the real miracle of Hanukkah? So some people will say the oil, and some people will say winning the battle. Right? If you look in our prayers, our prayer service that we say, so it talks about the battle. It talks about that fact that we were so few in number, they were so many, the few beat the many, right?
40,000.
There were 40,000? 40,000 Jews.
No.
40,000 Greeks.
Yeah.
Right. Right? And there was like 11 Jews. 13. Sorry, there was 13 Jews. Really? Yeah. 13 guys. Guerrilla warfare. Right? That's where it started. So the question is here, the Gemara as the answer of the Gemara is that the essential hag was fixed on the nace of the oil. That one cruise of that one bottle of oil, right? And it didn't seem to be, according to the Talmud, it doesn't seem to be on the nitzachon, on the victory, right? That the weak overpowered the mighty, right? And then there's another of other questions, like such as the Maharal that he brings down, that because that they shebishvil shalot nisbatla mitzvahs hadlachas menorah, because they didn't nullify the mitzvah of hadlachas menorah osim chag Hanukkah v'chayavim lehodot lahalel. So it's also a hint, according to him, that because that they did not nullify the mitzvah of the lighting of the menorah, so that's why the next year after they won the battle, that therefore they fixed that everybody should give thanks, right? So the union of thanks doesn't only go on the miracle that for the victory of the war, but actually goes on the exact idea or concept of lighting the menorah. Okay, so now the interesting thing is I'm going to divert just a little bit on another place where this begins. So so far we have here the light of darkness, or not, we'll call it not the light, we'll call it darkness. Darkness is represented by the Greeks. And it brings down in the Talmud that they wanted to darken the eyes of Israel. Darken the eyes of Israel. So what does it mean by darken the eyes specifically? Okay? Why not darken the minds? Right? What does it have to do with eyes specifically? Okay?
Because the soul comes from the eyes. And you can see somebody's soul through his eyes. So they make it darker.
Sometimes you could see somebody's soul. Right? Yes. Okay?
Even if their eyes are dark.
Yes. Watch out for those dark eyes. So there's another place where it hints to, also Hanukkah, which is more directly into Hanukkah. Okay? And that goes by, we have in the book of Numbers. In the book of Numbers, they bring down, before Parchat Baaloscha, that it brings down that they inaugurated the temple, and there was an inauguration that went on for 12 days after they built and completed the temple, the tabernacle in the desert. So they had an inauguration for 12 days. Each one of the 12 tribes was bringing an offering. Huge fanfare. It was a big thing. CNN, NBC, they all covered it. Okay? Big inauguration. So they had for 12 days in a row, each one of the tribes was bringing in a separate offering for the inauguration, except one tribe was not invited to bring. And who was that? One tribe was not invited. Can you imagine such a thing? The insult, the shame. Right? Who was it? Come on, bring it on. Anybody know? Aaron! The tribe of Levi was not asked. They did not receive an invitation, and they couldn't blame FedEx. Okay? So Aaron was totally deflated. His spirit was just so gone. How come every single one of the tribes is bringing except I'm not asked? So then finally, Aaron in his deflated state, God comes to him and he says, your offering beats all the other offerings, what I have for you. You will light the menorah forever. So the question is, okay, I understand. Okay, great. They are bringing a one-time offering, and Aaron's going to be lighting the menorah, But the language was, you're going to be lighting the menorah for all time. And the commentators, mostly the Ramban, he goes, well, where's the all time here? The temple was destroyed. Hello, right? First temple, second temple, destroyed, gone, right? So where's that forever aspect of that, right? So here, the Ramban says, is the hint to Hanukkah. That here we understand the whole idea of the lighting of the menorah is an extension to the lighting of the menorah of the temple. It's not just a commemoration. You got to get off that, okay? This holiday, I'm just going to cut to the chase, okay? is really an unbelievable vortex, okay, of light that we can privy something unbelievable, okay? I'll tell you this, right? The Barditchever Rebbe and many Hasidic Rebbes would sit in front of their menorah for 8 hours at a time, and their eyes wouldn't even blink. Because one of the sons was looking. I says, I want to see. I want to see. And he's looking at his father to see if he would blink, and he wouldn't even blink. I'm like, dude, okay? Right? They would sit meditating, staring at the lights of the menorah. So the lights of the menorah is not just, okay, it's nice, commemoration, let's go play dreidel and eat latkes, okay? The light of menorah has something very, very unique. It has an unbelievable potential in it that we have an access to and we must utilize, especially since it is the last open miracle before we were sent to exile. Okay? We had Purim, and Purim was in Babylon, actually Persian Medes, by Achashverosh. We came back, we had the whole thing with the Greeks, and then the last real open miracle was this thing. Okay? So like this is your survival rope, your ticket when you go into exile. Okay? It's also very significant that the menorah has to be lit when it is dark. It's not like Shabbos candles. You have to light it before sundown. You have to light it after sundown, right? At the time where it is dark. Because darkness always in the Torah refers to exile. Okay? So it is going to be the light of our exile. And it's something really huge. You hint to it, right? Okay? So first we had, okay, the idea of that the menorah in the temple, lit by Aaron, his consolation was you could light it forever. And they did actually light it forever because what happened is, in history, because of the Hashmonaim, what happened? They were Kohanim, they were priests, okay? Who got a 13-man army together, right? Some Jedis, that's some really nice Jedi, okay? And was able to go ahead and get into the temple, bust in the temple, and find that one bottle of oil that they were going to light, right? And therefore they fixed Hanukkah, and therefore Hanukkah, because of this miracle that they did through fighting the war, defeating them, getting there, lighting that menorah, right, made an opening. We'll call it a vortex, okay? An opening which is going to be our survival kit for exile, okay? It's our survival kit, but it's much more than that, okay? So the idea really is, so we had 2 places so far, okay? And here we go. Go back to the first page there that I showed you. Darkness was on the face of the deep. Darkness is Greece. And also there was another hint to it. It came actually another hint to the exiles or the 4 kingdoms that would rule over the Jewish people, which was at the Bris Bein of Asarim. We call it the covenant between the halves by Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, what he did, he said, God came and says, okay, I'm going to give your kids this land. Your children are going to inherit the land of Israel. And Avram Avinu says, well, how am I going to know? B'ma'edah. How will I know that they will inherit the land? So then he has them make split, right? 3 cows, 3 goats, 3 sheep, right? And he had to walk in between the halves. It's called the covenant between the halves. Real kind of weird kind of situation. Like, I want to know what that looked like or what it smelled like, okay? In any case, it brings down here also when he did this whole kind of thing and it came to pass that it says in here, verse 12, that when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a dread, even a great darkness fell upon him. Darkness also, the Midrash brings down that this is hinted to the evil kingdom of Greece. Okay? Now, it's very unusual, the evil kingdom of Greece. Okay? We think, okay, a bunch of dudes running around thousands of years ago with togas and everything like that. Right? And, so the only thing remnant of Greece is toga parties if you were in a frat house. I was not in a frat house. Okay? But that's so not true. I think we can all agree. And I think history has shown us, and if anybody could help chime in, please feel free, okay? Is the Romans really didn't have any real philosophy of their own, the Romans. What they did was they took from all kinds of things, they took pagan stuff, and in terms of their philosophy, they adopted the Greek philosophy as to be their philosophy. So in other words, them being, let's assume that they're the fourth kingdom, they took this Greek philosophy and made it part of their own, and this came their way of life. Okay? So, yeah.
It's interesting because Rome represents Esau and Greece represented Japheth. Japheth, the second son of Noah, and how they took the philosophy from that nation and took it to their own nation. It's just interesting.
Yes. Hey, I guess, yeah, well, okay. It says that Japheth will dwell in the tents of shame. And then the Edom is shame, also comes from the of shame, who the son of Noah. And Japheth dwell in this tent of shame. But the thing is, we have to really get into it because the influence of the Greeks is the issue is it's still around today. Because really what it is, and barely just basically is, and we have to shave ourselves off from the influence because it's the external influence of the external. Basically what it is. You know, you look good, you're good, right? Everything is basically in the Greek philosophy is based on the external, not on the internal. Okay? They don't see the deep things. Nature, their idea was specifically this. Okay? To darken the eyes of Israel, the Gomorrah says. Darken the eyes of Israel, which means what? They were introducing something, a virus, into the minds. Okay? And the virus into the minds is basically that, you know, there is a, you know, God made the world. Okay, God made the world. Fine, you know. But of course, their idea is basically he's over there. There's something else that we see. It's called nature. Nature runs its course, right? Once they got you to agree to nature, then they can do all kinds of things with your mind. Okay? Once they have this whole concept of nature and they separated it from God, then they can run all kinds of courses, and then they can influence us, the Jewish people, in all kinds of ways.
What would their motivation be? Why?
So, gosh.
All the Greek gods were modified humans. They were not necessarily divine creatures. And so one of as I understand it, they used beauty to get people to see the value of of their gods, of their multiple gods. See, this is what the sun god created, and this is what the water god created.
Yeah, but what was the purpose? Well, so the main reason, of course, really is for any of the nations who want to get rid of Israel is because we represent morality to the world. We have the compass, the spiritual compass of what mankind is supposed to be doing here. And if we are saying, well, we can't, you know, you can't do that, right? Sodomy, we don't do sodomy. Sodomy is not, you know, it's not a mitzvah, okay? Let's just go extreme here, okay? Because they were into that, okay? You know, or any of the other desires or physical desires and lust that humans go after. And so if the Jewish people are around with their compass, with the map, going, this is not good, you cannot do this. If there's a messenger, you got to kill the messenger, okay? Because we want to play. We want to do our thing. We want to run the show. And if they're there bringing us some law from divine, from Sinai, right, that you can't do this and you can't do that, well, that's just not fun, okay? And we don't want to listen to that. So therefore, we're going to make a disconnect, okay? We're going to intervene, and we're going to make this disconnect, and we're going to make this disconnect permanent, okay? Now, God did make a disconnect, okay? He did make a disconnect, but the disconnect that he did make was for a purpose. He created our souls. He created worlds, different worlds, and he created our souls. And he created our souls in such a way that there was going to be a point where we are, like our situation now, there's going to be a disconnect. It's going to be. In other words, we don't really feel our souls right now. It's very hard, right? Even though in the inner essence of who we are so connected, but we don't feel it. But God made it that way. He sent our souls down to this planet, into this earth, in order that we can fight our way back. We have to do it ourselves. We have to break out of the cocoon. He's not going to do it.
So people, including the Greeks, that don't acknowledge a soul, it's just all about the personality?
Yes. Dr. Phil. There you go. I don't know. He might believe in God, but I don't know. But yeah, everything that's external is what is real. There's nothing else beyond that. That's what the Greeks believe, and this is what they impress upon us.
You can see that in their artwork.
It's everywhere. The question is really, you have to eradicate it from your mind. This is about freeing your mind. Hanukkah is about freeing your mind. Okay? Yeah.
One of the things that I see in a spiritual sense from everything you're saying, it's kind of like we're living in the Tower of Babel, that the whole world is trying to climb to God to destroy God. And because the Jewish people are the representation of God on this earth. So the reason the people who say they love God and everything really don't love God. That's why they want to destroy the Jewish nation, because we represent God. And since we represent God, they want to destroy us. They want to destroy their land, the land of God.
Exactly. Okay, so we'll say in answering your question, I hope I answered it, Jeff. Right? Okay, now what's the cure? So it says here in the very first page, we're still there. So you had all these different four levels or layers or klipot, shells, husks of darkness that are going to rule over the Jewish people, right? Unformed, void, darkness, deep. And then verse 3 says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Vayomer Elokim yehi or vayahi or. Now what is that light? This is where it goes really great. Okay, you ready for some science fiction? Okay. And then God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from darkness. Okay, so here we have in our tradition, Kabbalistic tradition, there was something that was created called an or ganuz. It's called the or ganuz, which means the hidden light. This or ganuz was such an unbelievable light that Adam Arishon, the first man, had it, and he was able to see from one generation to another. He was able to see with this light. It's not a physical light. It's an unbelievable light that you can actually see he was able to see every single person. That's a lot of people, right? From him all the way down to the final end to Mashiach. Every single person, what they were doing, and what they did. He was able to see everything. This or of Ganuz was that, okay? Now this or Ganuz was, before verse 4 said, God saw the light that it was good, and God divided light from darkness, was in hints in our tradition that God had said that light. He says, well, would that light be good? That can't be for everybody. We got to put that away. That's why it's called Or HaGanuz, the light that is Ganuz. Geniza, you ever heard the word Geniza? Geniza, which means, when we have an old Sefer Torah or an old book that is not used anymore, we bury it. Okay? Okay? So Geniza or Ganuz literally means like hidden. Okay, in LA we used to say if a person drank too much, we say he's gonzo. But that he wasn't Jewish even, but it's interesting how we came up with that. In any case, but ganuz doesn't mean it's destroyed and it's gone. Okay, it means it's concealed. Right? So this light, before God hid it away, was out, available for man to use, Adam, for a total of 36 hours. This or ganuz, Adam was created 12 in the afternoon on Friday, right? No, he was 6 in the morning, right? 6 in the morning, this or ganuz was out. He was created, and he had it all for 12 hours, and then the Shabbos for another 24 hours. 24 plus 12 is 36. So this or ganuz until Shabbat, that first Shabbat, went out. Then God had that light out. Okay? Now, yeah.
Is this or hasekel?
Beyond that. Okay, that's just a fragment. Okay? So then he hid it away. How many candles do we light total on Hanukkah? 36 candles. So here's the boom. Okay? So we have a connection. The very primordial or haganuz, which is concealed. Okay? Okay? And then it came out again through the menorah. When Aaron lit the menorah, that was also the or haganuz. that was also this hidden light. We'll talk about what this hidden light is in its essence, okay? And then, of course, they had to, and one of the things that they did do, that they knew the first temple was going to be destroyed. They knew it. And they hid 6 things before the temple was destroyed. They made sure they put him in a place where no one can get to him. And one of those things was the menorah. I know you saw in the Ark of Titus that he's carrying a menorah, but that was a fake. It was a replica, so made in China on the bottom of it. Okay? Right? They didn't check. Titus doesn't read English. What does that say in there? I don't read English. Okay. In any case, it was a replica. It wasn't the real thing. The real organus is still hidden. The question is something a little bit more about the menorah in the temple. That, as we know, that there were 7 branches, right? 7 total, 1 central, and then there were 6 going out. Okay? Now, the amazing thing was about the central branch. The central one never got extinguished. Just didn't happen. The priest would, light it, and he would come like the next day, still there. I think he would knock it out, clean it, and relight it again, but it was still lit, right? And all the other ones were gone. And then he'd come that afternoon, lit. It would never extinguish that light. And then he would, of course, from that light, you had to light all the other ones. Now, this is the key thing. What's the significance of that? Okay? The fact that he would light all the other ones. So then we have to get into exactly what is this organus and what does it represent. And we all say it all the time, right? We say, Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, which means the candle of God is the soul of man. Okay? The candle of God is the soul of man. When God made man, okay? So he carved out of his essence to make the soul of man. And we have in our tradition, there are 5 levels of soul. And what does that mean, 5 levels of soul, or 5 layers of soul, or whatever we want to say is because God had to, in order to conceal himself, had to run a filtration system in order to wean down or conceal himself, and basically end up with a body and a soul in it. But really, in essence, only our bodies are only encasing 2 of the lowest levels of our soul, and there's another 3 basically, which don't even or not even encased in our soul, in our bodies. Okay, they're higher dimensions. In other words, you exist right now on a higher plane of reality. You exist. It's like the Star Trek where there's a dual universe, the evil Mr. Spock, right? Okay, but it's not evil. Okay, but here you exist on other levels of reality, according to the Kabbalah, according to the mystic traditions. You exist. You have a ruach and a neshama. You have a nefesh and a ruach. And then you have a neshama. Your neshama is barely the lowest part of your neshama is hanging out in your brain. Then you have 2 other levels called your chaya and your yechida, which means life force, and then your unified force, which are so connected to God right here in this very moment. Right here in this very moment, we are unbelievably connected to the infinite. We just don't feel it right now. The light of the menorah, at least really what it does, it's supposed to ignite in us that realization that we have that soul. And that connection always exists there. Okay? That we are a soul. Our essence is a soul. My essence is a soul. Elokai neshama shenasata bi tahorahi. God, the soul that you've given in me is pure. We say it every morning. And really, our essence that is really who, when you say I, that's really who we are. And our bodies are just a garment. It's a garment. It's a coat. It's an external aspect that we shed, just like you go to bed in the night, take off your clothes, put on your pajamas. Same thing by the body. Okay? It's an unbelievable realization. There's a great book that I learned on Thursday nights in Ireland called Getting to Know Yourself. Main theme of this whole book, right? The author's nameless. But he basically just leads you through in order to try to integrate that whole realization that really we're not a body and we cannot identify with the body. The Greeks want us to identify with the body. The Greeks fight like anything for us to have our identification with our bodies, but that's not who we are. So the menorah is supposed to wake you up to who we really are. And now the Cohen, who comes in, there's only one flame there that's always lit, but he has to light the other parts, okay? Because we have to bring from the light of our soul out, which is basically really what we have to do. It's our job. Our job is to be a light unto the nations. Interesting thing about the menorah, when it was lit in the hall, it was it was not in the inner chamber. It was in the first chamber, right? It wasn't in the Holy of Holies. It was in this chamber outer, and they had the door the drawn that now non-priests couldn't walk in there. You had to be a priest to go in there, but anybody who wanted to can get a glimpse of those lights. In other words, you can go and walk by and get it, and then you wake up. It's supposed to wake you up, okay? So here, let's go on. So on the page, the first page here, the bottom paragraph, the relationship of menorah and the war, which is what we started off. So what were the Greeks seeking to ruin? They were seeking to ruin our deep connection to the infinite, which we do have, but they want us to forget about it. You are not a soul. Maybe you had a soul, but your soul is so disconnected, you are just a body. Okay? You are not connected to the infinite, right? Because what would happen if we really would realize that we're connected to the infinite? What would happen? What would it be? Dude. That's right. It's just 3-4 letters. Dude. 5 worlds and 5 levels of soul we talked about that are strung down, okay, in order for concealment. In other words, God made a separation in order to reestablish a deeper face-to-face connection. And he kept a vial. This is an interesting thing. Now the Greeks specifically went to defile the bottles of oil. It wasn't like, oh, let's just ruin the whole place and spray paint our name everywhere, right? Let's just break everything and mess everything up. They had a very specific strategy to ruin the Jewish people, and it's to ruin their connection, and they knew that we have to get to all the bottles of oil and make sure we defile every single bottle. So they sent the soldier, did you open up every bottle? I don't know if they ask if he, loogied in it, but, you have to open up just open the bottles. That's all you got to do, is open the bottles, right? And that'll be enough, because then they won't know if it's pure or not, right? So the guy comes, yeah, I got them all. I got them all, boss, right? So they assume they got them all. That means that's it. We got it. They nullified the lighting of the menorah. They let them keep the temple. They didn't destroy the temple. No. They wanted to get them spiritually. And that's why on Hanukkah, we really don't eat Chinese food. Okay, Hanukkah is not supposed to be connected to Chinese food. It's the other day that we eat Chinese food. Now, do you know why? Does anybody know? Some people know why. Why do Jews eat Chinese food on? Exactly. That's right.
Probably not anymore.
Not anymore, for sure not. Are you kidding me? Go to LA. Okay? So, the idea really was that they specifically went to defile the oil because the oil represents the soul of the Jewish people. The pure soul. Your soul is not so pure. If you ever hear your mind saying that to you, that is a Greek thought. Your soul is really not so pure, senor. It's not true. It's not true. That's a Greek thought. Okay? So the idea is, Baruch Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he saved one vial. He kept one bottle pure. Still had the seal of the high priest on it. Because he waited. He waited.
Who's he?
God. God waited. They defiled it. Things were going the way they were going. And this is what makes the holiday of Hanukkah so unbelievable. Was because what was he waiting for? For us to make a move. We had to move. We had to do it. We had to initiate the war. Okay? This was an unbelievable thing. Because we are fighting the darkness all the time. And you have to fight the darkness all the time. And if we didn't initiate it, the vial would, who knows, God forbid. But he waited for us to initiate it. See, the thing is, we're here in creation because God made a creation, yes, for us to go, for him to bestow pleasure. That's Judaism 101. God made a creation in order to bestow pleasure. He wanted to give. Okay? But part of that giving is the necessary ingredient is you have to have free will, because you have to have an initiation from below. We have to initiate. We have to earn the goodness that God wants to give us. It can't be a freebie. He didn't just create a soul and just fly right away. Okay? It's not going to, because you're not going to appreciate it. You work, you earn, you feel good about what you earned. You have a good sense of self, right? For us to go ahead and look in the face of God every day with a handout, and us to take every day, we cannot look into the face of who's giving us. It's too much for us. We have to do something. We have to be involved in co-creating. So here was an issue, serious issue, because they were killing us spiritually, and we had to initiate the fight on our own, and that's why God, he's kept that bottle there, but we had to go in and break in the temple and get it, okay? So he's waiting for us to make the move to fight for our purity and connection, okay? And then we know that there's 3 things that they nullified. The next page. You guys got the next page? 3 things that they nullified besides the cow with the horns. Did you guys hear about what they did with an ox that they carved on the ox horn? Right? You have no portion in the God above. Right? And march it, up and down. They make sure that they carved it. They did a lot of weird things to stick it to us. But the 3 things that they nullified was Shabbos, Milah, and Rosh Chodesh. Why these 3 things of all the other things that they could nullify? Shabbos is an unbelievable. All of these 3 things really represent an unbelievable connection in a different way. Okay? Shabbos is an unbelievable connection. In Kabbalah and mystic terms, the 6 days of the week, we go through 6 days and then we have Shabbos. But really what happens on Shabbos, see, our work during the 6 days is not like what happens on Shabbos. In the 6 days of the week, we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach through the 4 realms, the 4 dimensions, to get a glimpse of God. On Shabbos, everything just folds. All the dimensions fold, and you automatically are on the highest dimension. We call it Atzilut, or emanation. It's and all of a sudden, you just find yourself transported into the highest plane, the soul. I just finally felt it this Shabbos. I'm telling you, I felt it this Shabbos. You know why? We say on Shabbos, in the davening, in the beginning of Shabbos, we say Shabbat vayi nafash in the prayers, right? Shabbat vayi nafash, they translate it as vai nefesh. Vai nefesh, which means woe my soul. What do you mean woe my soul? Because everybody knows on Shabbos you get an extra soul. And then when Shabbos goes out, that soul goes. So here I had a nice cup of coffee before Shabbos, right? But nothing else, okay? No other intoxicating things, okay? And all of a sudden I felt, oh my gosh, this is just great, the insights. I see, you get insights if you're quiet just for a moment, in between things, and you're sitting in shul, or even in between davening, or in the davening itself, or sometimes you have to be aware of the thoughts that come into you. You'll get an insight about all of your potential, what you can do in the world, what can be in the world. Sometimes it slips in and it's very, very subtle, and you have to have a sensitivity to it. And I got a bigger hit on Friday night. I'm like going, whoa, just God, the connection that I could have. Just that was enough. Wow. The connection to God that I can have. And my reaction was, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Shabbos is going to end, and it's going to be gone. And I'm going to go back to my silly self, doing my silly things all week. So I went, vai nefesh. Even the beginning of Shabbos, you go, whoa, this extra soul is awesome, and I know it's going to go. But the idea really of Shabbos is this unbelievable connection. All the dimensions fold up, and you find yourself in the world of Atzilut, the nearness and a connection to God that is so unbelievable. They wanted to stop that. I don't know how. I don't know how they stop you from keeping Shabbos if you sit in your house, right? Okay, no going to shul. Okay. Milah, bris milah also is an unbelievable connection. The flesh of the foreskin that is cut, of course, it reveals what we'll call the corona of the membrum. That of course makes a certain connection. Really, they say brit milah is because you are desisting from certain pleasures, But really, we'll just look at it as it takes away a barrier. It takes away a barrier. No barriers. It's like the moon cut your passport. No barriers. No barriers. I'll have to tell you later about the moon cut your passport, okay? Remind me while we're eating Chinese food. Rosh Chodesh is Emunah. The big thing about Rosh Chodesh is that the sun is illumination, the sun is investigation, and the moon is represented by Emunah. Emunah, which means faith. There's something deep in the recesses of the Jewish soul that no matter what happens, he still hangs on. Okay? If you would spiritually cut a Jew, right, into his inner essence, the substance that exists there is pure emunah. And it comes out, God forbid, at times of persecution. It comes out at a time where a Jew has to sacrifice his life instead of committing one of the 3 cardinal sins. It'll automatically go into automatic pilot. A Jew will not give up his identity, right? There were many, 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 many stories and generations in the Holocaust of the most remotest Jew who became a mayor of a town. True stories. They bring him in. They put a Sefer Torah. They make him hold a Sefer Torah. They just denounce that you're Jewish. We'll let you go. And he is already married a non-Jewish, completely no connection. He would not do it, and they threw him in the fire. Many stories like this, and all through history. It's there. I know you. It's like don't test me now, Rabbi. Okay, it's there. Okay, Rosh Chodesh is one of those factors because it has to do with the moon and it has to do with the holidays. And the holidays, of course, based because of the Jewish calendar. All of those 3 holidays, mainly those Aliyah L'Regel, we call it, going to the pilgrimage holidays, festivals, were recharges for Emunah. You got to go recharge 3 times a year. It's like what's the guy with the ring? Guy with the ring has to thank you. Green Lantern has to recharge his ring. We had to go when we were living in Israel, and there was a temple. We had to go for a recharge 3 times a year. You got to go and see God. And believe me, everybody went, and everybody saw God. It was your Sinai experience all over again. The temple was your permanent portable Sinai experience. They didn't want to leave the mountain, dude. You had to drag some people away from the mountain. I'm not leaving this mountain, dude. Come on, we got to go. We're going to go to Israel. No, dude. I love this mountain. I'm not leaving this mountain. Dude. Okay. So, okay, we'll build a temple. You sure it's going to work? We got it. We got the plans. Who made the plans? God made the plans. It'll work. Okay. So then they agreed to go. Okay? So the temple is this Sinai experience. You go there and you see God. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? Okay. That's the menorah. Okay? That's our little menorah, our menorah that we light. We sit in front. Okay, we're getting ready for Chinese food now. Okay, I smell it. Okay. So here, the menorah, okay? Menorah corresponds to Bereshit. Actually, there's 10 vessels, main vessels in the temple. 10 main vessels in the temple. Those correspond to the 10 statements of creation, 10 commandments. What other 10 do we have?
Minion?
No, in the Bible. 10 statements of creation, let's look at that like that. But if you really count, in other words, there's in the first chapter in Genesis it says, and God said, and God said, and God said, and God said, except for they counted and they go, wait a minute, there's 9. In the Gomorrah. They did that in the Gomorrah. Chutzpah. Right? Can't you believe me? There's 9. Bereshit. It's known in our tradition, Bereshit, which is not really, and God said Bereshit. It's considered to be the hidden statement. And the menorah of all of the temple vessels aligns with that. That's why Moshe, every time he got the instructions for the menorah, well, you got to make it like this, and you got this, and you got a bulb, and you got a brick, and you got a shaft, and he went, okay, and he went to go tell Bezalel, and he goes, well, you got to make it like, and one second, and he went back to ask God like 3-4 times. Can you just tell me that again? And finally he says, screen, right? Virtual reality. Okay, you got it? Got it. So then, why didn't he just do that? What's going on here? Because it was so sublime. The menorah, if you would put The Jewish people. They once did this with Shlomo Carlebach. A friend of mine had Shlomo Carlebach. I don't know if you know who he was. A big rabbi, famous songs. He was in the house for Shabbos in France. And I don't know what this woman's what she was learning. She says, if you could be any inanimate object, what would you be? To Shlomo Carlebach. So he looks up, he says, bridge. Okay, so he was a bridge. He bridged people from the non-religious world to the religious world. He brought a lot of people back. So I would say now, if you would convert the entire Jewish people into an inanimate object, menorah. It is everything. That's why the Greeks wanted to get after the menorah. They wanted to get after that oil, because that was the essence of the Jewish people in inanimate form. It's like that, you know, you get weird science fiction movies about, you know, all of the souls are in that tree. There was that one weird movie a long time ago about the planet. I forgot what it was. Blue People or something like that. Anyways.
Avatar.
There you go. Thank you very much. Got to get the tree. Got to save the tree. Okay.
Was the menorah ultimately cast from a single ingot of gold?
Yes, had to be one. And beaten to a pulp. Thank you very much. Right? Beaten out of one piece. Right?
You could also look at, now that you're thinking about that, because there's the Greek tale, Jason and the Argonauts, and he has to go to a tree that is golden and has a fleece underneath it. So that could have probably just taken right from what we're just talking about.
Okay, we got to get into this because I gotta finish off. Okay, so now I spoke a lot. Okay, and I wish I had a little Hanukkah here with a candle lit, because you really have to contemplate these flames. You have to spend, I know it could be there's a balagan and there's families and the latkes and everybody's hungry, right? Believe me, if you could just crack the whip and get everybody to sit down and stare at that flame just for a minute, okay?
That's not easy to do.
It's not, but maybe after the party, hopefully you'll still have a candle lit, right? Then you could sit down, and I did it, 5 minutes, I just, meditate on it, and what you're supposed to meditate on, okay? Because don't forget, it's the Ora Ganuz, it's the hidden light. And what does that hidden light do? What is that hidden light going to offer you? It offers you to see you and your potential. It offers you to see you in your actualized state. It is the ability, you have a potential to see who you are as in the complete relationship with infinity. In your completed whole state. And not only that, you won't see it physically. You have to, this is Jedi training, okay? This is something you have to develop a sense in yourself to try to visualize, to feel you, when you're looking at these candles, you in your already actualized connection to God. I am so connected to God right now. Thank you, God, that I can now, because you are it. You become the flame. Okay? Yeah, we ready. I'm finishing now. I smell chow mein!
I'm the bad guy. I'm just delivering Chinese.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. Okay, so here, I'm going to read from here when it says here, the goal of creation. Okay? The goal of creation is to see the light of God who enlightens all creation, just like the beginning of creation. Right? And God said, let there be light is the cure for all of the exiles. It is the cure for any influence that might be in our minds. It's a cleansing. It's a vortex. We need to see that the entire world is full of the light of God. Again, the idea of this menorah being lit is to express to us our souls, and that it gives us the ability to see the light of God in all of our activities. Can you imagine walking now after Hanukkah or during Hanukkah, and you just can't stop but seeing God everywhere? I just see God everywhere. I just see God. I just see God. And you just see every single space, even if it's just one little bit, you see it more and more and more. That's why we increase every night. Okay? It's more and more. I see the light of God. And there is nothing other than Him, Ein od milvado, and that all of creation is from His power. We no longer see a world of separation, like what the Greeks say. Rather, all is from this cosmic power that gives everything existence. So the light of the menorah is the light of God, which is also the light of our souls that shines into the world. Actually, it gives light to the Jewish heart, wherever he or she is, no matter what. That's why the Greeks nullified the menorah and defiled the oil. The menorah is the Jewish people in the inanimate object. We should all have a blessing. That next time, try to sit down. And also, it's really supposed to give a double illumination for Sim Shalom. I see it right here. Right, one of the things is Sim Shalom in the morning during Hanukkah gives double illumination. People should have a special kavanah for Sim Shalom the next morning, every morning during Hanukkah. Sim Shalom is the last blessing of the Shemona Esrei. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha, right? Bring peace. People should have in mind when they say that it's going to be a double illumination for their neshamas. The idea really is to use the light of the menorah to see God in the world. We should all be blessed to see God in the world and do our jobs.
Amen.